Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Three Witches and a What. My name is Glenda Dawson. We have Mary Nunez and we have Mariana Leah here with us. And we are going to continue our discussions. Hopefully you caught the one before this one. And then every so often we will continue on different subjects to help you in whatever path you're going through and to make you realize you're not the only one. To help you understand that everyone's awakening, basically, although the pathway may be a little different, the experiences are going to be pretty much the same, or at least the result of it is going to be pretty much the same. Today's subject is basically to discuss that during your spirituality awakening, one of the symptoms is that you may think you are, for all terms and possible ways of saying it, you are not going crazy. This is basically what it is. We all see things, we all do things, we experience things, but we are okay. We're just going through what we need to go through to get to the other side of our awakening. And also for the record, awakening isn't only a one-time thing. The higher you go, the more you will go through. And you awaken one day and woof, voila, there's an experience. And maybe you need to take the next level in a few months or in a year or whenever. It's an experience and a path that it's an individual thing. When I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my awakenings. When I was younger, I was in high school, and I went to an all-girls Catholic high school with uniform, where the Catholic school was surrounded by 8-foot stone walls with raw fencing on the top and spikes ended it. So there was no way you could get out. And they had gates, raw iron gates that they would lock up with a chain at night. Because originally this school was an away school. So girls would be sent there and they would live there and they would go back home on holidays, or sometimes if they were rich enough on weekends. It stopped being an away school in the 1950s. So, but it was always to empower women. When I had one of my awakenings there during that time, I realized that I started not to fit in anywhere. I didn't fit with this little clique. I didn't fit with this little clique. It was very interesting. It was like I had to be by myself. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a loner. I love to socialize. I'm a social butterfly. I'm a Gemini. I love to talk. But it felt like I needed to be quiet. And it felt like I needed to be alone to go inside myself to retrospect what was happening. At that moment, I realized that I was not in the same alignment as a lot of the people around me. And although it was painful, I kept thinking, what did I do? What am I doing wrong? What was happening? What did I cause for this what did I do to this one girl to have her come at me or say things about me? Or, they would one time I was the person who got stuffed in the locker, for the record, okay? It was like, okay, why is this happening? And it was only then when I really asked what was happening, was it that my guys, my team, came to me and say, "Hmm, you're going through your one of your awakenings." And I'm like, oh, thank you. You could have given me a warning. Anyway, and they made me realize that in order to get by this, I had to forget everybody else. I had to go inside myself and figure out what it was that I needed to work on to be able to then move smoother. The progress wasn't as harsh. I lost friends all of a sudden that were gone. I lost a very good friend that we had been friends since sixth grade, and we're talking now high school. We would go to each other's house all the time. We would spend weekends at each other's houses, the whole thing. And all of a sudden, done. She disappears. I would call her because in those times we didn't have cell phones, people. Yes, I know, ancient. We would have only the house phones, and you would call each other and the whole thing. She would never answer. I could hear her say to her mother, tell her I'm not here. And of course, it was like, what did I do? Well, out of that, I realized that the whole journey, the whole life here is about me and using whatever happens around me to learn, to grow, and to open up to the next level. Now, at that point, I really thought I was going nuts because I'm saying to myself, I know I didn't do anything, but yet this girl, specifically this one girl, just disappeared. Um, and to tell you the truth, she she contacted me 20 years later after I graduated from Florida, when she was already a doctor, because that's what she always wanted to be. And she says to me, just calls me up out of the blue, actually calls my mother, and my mother gave her my new number, and says, I'm sorry. I treated you terrible. There was nothing wrong with you. Is that somebody said that you were um, doing things that were not right? So I wanted to stay away from you. I'm like, what was I doing that wasn't right? But that, my guides and my angels and whoever else guided them gave me that opportunity to grow. Because out of that, I learned to go inside myself instead of always looking for the happiness from everybody else. Instead of always looking for, oh, you awakened. Oh, okay. How does that look? Oh, I see your experience. No, you had to experience it yourself. Now that was one of the most traumatic ones, but I was so young that it was very hard to understand what was happening. But once they started showing me a little more, and I started going into myself a little more, I started realizing I was not the one that was crazy. And maybe they were not crazy either, but it felt easier for me to say they were crazy and I wasn't, truthfully. High school kid. Somebody's got to be crazy for all this is happening. And they would say, I would say things, and I know I wasn't saying things, but I was, because I was starting to channel. And I didn't realize that when I opened my mouth, sometimes I wasn't saying something, somebody else was. And I was like, oh, okay, now I am going crazy. So, but in reality is we all go through things, and that's just a little piece of it. And I'm sure you ladies also have experienced things like that. Um, any one of you want to share first? I mean, because I know we have stories. We have stories.
Yes, yes, we do. But
Mm.
first, before we go into our stories,
Yes.
let's go and see what our sponsor stories are all about. Right?
Ooh.
Ha!
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we will return right after our sponsors have given you their wonderful opportunities that they have for you. We'll be right back. Okay, so here's five, four, three, two, one. Welcome back, everybody. Here we go again.
So, Mary, um, why don't you tell us at least one of yours?
Um, one of mine. For me, I I I went into that spiritual awakening. I had the same issue that that you had in high school and in junior high as well. The more I think about it, I've always been a loner in schools because I couldn't handle the you know kitty crap that we learn to,
Yeah.
and we were subjected to always um, always had also the misfortune of people, kids not understanding, because I also grew up in Catholic schools. So
Hmm.
it was it was getting bullied,
Hmm.
like it was a verbal. There's a click, and they keep you out, or you hear them talking about that you are not well in your head. And at some point, you really think about it. You're like growing up. You're like, oh my God,
Hmm.
maybe there is something wrong, but it isn't at all. And the funny part with me too was, it isn't that I couldn't hold my mouth, and I couldn't, because it's just like you, there were things that would come out that even I would go, oh, did I say that? I felt like the Urgle, and but there was the the actual separation that happened, that when you start thinking about it even more and more, the more grateful and thankful you are that you're not with that group of kids. You don't want to go through that minutia. It happens after a while. It also happens when you have strong parents that go, you don't need them. That's why I feel that as your kids are growing up and you see that this is going on with them, you need to step in. You need to strengthen them up like my mom did. My mom was like, do you really need their crap? No, you don't. You go to school, you learn your stuff, you come home, you do your homework, and then you do whatever the hell you want. And it was great for me. I didn't have to worry about anything, just staying away from those idiots. I still remember each and every one of their names, which is weird, kind of psychopathic, but it's a little weird. But hey, you do, and you pray for them. That they do have a good life, and that that karma is not passed on to any of their children or their children's children or whatever. But because more than they do, what happens or what could happen. But I
Hmm.
I kind of, the one that I remember the most going through is the Satoru self. When I when the Satori is obviously a Japanese Buddhist term, right? And it's or the Satori. I call it Satori. I'm Cuban. Um, but it's like their term of awakening, but it's more like a comprehension. That deep comprehension, that aha moment. And when you get it when you're young, it helps you get even stronger as you move on, going through all the symptoms of of your awakening. Um, this is where you're very lucky, because it is definitely associated with a Kensho. And this is where you actually truly begin to see yourself as your true naturedness of who you truly are. So when that happened, I started to, because I had the time for myself, I
Mhm.
wasn't dilly dallying or, doing the crazy, stupid stuff that we do when we're younger. I was able to actually home in and recognize that I had to honor myself, the responsibility that I had here, and the reason why I was here. And I had to embody that. I had to actually embrace it. I had to make it my own. I was, even though I was a reluctant psychic for a very long time, I still went through the Satoru self because I still had to work through the human side of the awakening. Already in the spiritual side, I already knew what was going on, and knowing that, she's got ego, she's, very young. I knew that I was young, but I already knew that I was a lot more than what other people were at my age, but I just wasn't ready for it. Now, I still went through it because my mom was a strong spiritualist and was the one that, made sure that I was going through it and always telling me, you have time. You obviously have time. Um, yeah, that is the one part that I really, really, really remember as far as what stood out in my spiritual awakening. The fact that these people didn't want to be around me was, when I figured it out, was my vibration was going like this. Their vibration is going like this. So naturally, they're going to bounce off a very fast vibration because they can't keep up. If you don't explain that to kids or to young people when they're going through this, then they're not going to understand. They're always going to think, well, it's me, it's me, it's me. And it isn't. It's all about vibrations and frequencies. And when my mom explained that to me, I was very, very thankful because I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll take it as a scientific thing. And rightly so, because it is. In a way,
Mhm.
it is. Um, but that's really what I remember. I remember the going through the Satori phase. That's the one that stood out for me the most. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Satori is very interesting.
Yeah.
Mariana, baby girl.
I had a difficult life, to say the least, as a child and in junior high school and in high school, because I come
Mhm.
from Ukraine, and being, an immigrant child is not easy. It's not easy, to say the least. Aside from being, different, and people kind of feeling that I was different because I could feel people's emotions, I could feel what they're saying. I got bullied in school a lot. My parents were, struggling all their lives to have income. They came to America, to New York, with $80 in their pocket. My father dug trenches when he first got here and worked 4 jobs and was on the trucks in construction and different things just to make ends meet, until he became a bus driver for close to almost 30 years with children. God bless him, in Jewish schools and stuff. I went to yeshiva, even though I was half Christian, half Jewish. And I remember being bullied, not only for the clothes that I wore, because we didn't have a lot of money and everybody loved the brand names. We couldn't
Mhm.
afford the brand names. My mom was worried about, lice and all kinds of things. So because I had very long hair, so she kept my head always in a bun. So that was like a big issue with kids. And it was an
Mhm.
old girls' school. So Glenda, you went to Catholic
Mhm.
school. I went to the opposite section of the Jewish school, and the same restrictions pretty much.
Yeah.
And, I wore the long skirts, the uniforms, but we didn't have
Uniform.
the pretty clothes, you know, we did the best that we can, and
Right.
kids don't always understand that. It's not very understanding. So I got bullied for the clothes. I got also bullied for not chewing gum while praying. I got bullied for becoming actually ultra religious, and you know, until the point where it actually brought a giant rift between my mom and myself, because you know, I was Christian when I was 6, and then I got put into yeshiva because of my health. So my mom didn't
Mm-hmm.
really want me in public school, neither did my father. So,
Right.
and there was a huge, in the 90s, population of children that were half Christian, half Jewish, that ended up in Jewish schools, you know, under the I am Jewish. You know, we freely talk about it now. Back then, it wasn't a joke. You know, but I mean, I know why, because it brought me closer to Judaism. Why?
Right.
Because I taught myself Aramaic, how to read and write. I mean, Hebrew was from my former past lives and from my, you know, origins, nothing new to me. So I connected to it. Love going to the synagogue with my dad. I love going to church with my mom. I still do. For the high holy days. Yom Kippur Judgment Day next week is very important.
Oh, yes.
There's some things you still
Ma-
keep,
Right.
right? It's part
Right.
of you, of course. And I didn't see the reason why I have to pass notes like other kids and chew gum and not pay attention. When I prayed, I prayed. I didn't always understand what I was saying, even though some prayers said, "Thank God I'm not a woman." I realized that later. I said, wait a minute. Last time I checked, I was female. Right? But until the
Yeah.
point that innocence broken,
Yeah.
you know, I really did do the best that I can. But it also drove a giant rift between my mom and myself, because there was a lot of restrictions in the Jewish tradition
Mm.
that, you know, I would not do. And then my mom would ask me, but remember, there's also that Christian part of you. And I would say, no, well, you know, I want to be really, really Jewish. My mom's like, since when? I said, since the time you put me in yeshiva. So, I mean, my mom would have to turn on the lights for me during Shabbat. My mom would, you know, would have to write things for me, do stuff.
Mhm.
And so it broke up the family in a very giant way, because my mom and I stopped being as close as we could have been, or we were, before all of this. And then slowly but surely, the mediumship kicked in more, the psychic abilities kicked in more, the empathy kicked in more. And the more that I got bullied, I felt I was more attacked, and it stopped making sense. And once I started to learn Hebrew fully, and I started to, kind of question my teachers and saying, well, hey, why am I praying I'm not a woman? But I am. Why am I saying thank you? I'm not something, but I am. Do we not understand that? And then one moment came, well, I guess that was part of the biggest awakenings of life. I think it was like 16. I got hit with chronic fatigue syndrome. And one of the last classes that I attended before I went to home tutoring, it was almost like God pulling me out during the middle of Passover. Woke up with a giant fever on my 16th birthday, turned into laryngitis, turned into like a really bad cold, flu, whatever, that they couldn't explain. 6 months later, they're still trying to figure it out. But one of my last classes that I ever attended, I stood up in front of the teacher and I said, so if someone is not Jewish by birth, but they are in yeshiva and they accept the faith and they pray and they actually really genuinely practice it, how does that make them any less Jewish? And my teacher turned around and said, they're not, no matter what they do, no matter how much they pray, no matter what they practice, because they were never born into Judaism through their mother.
Their
I said,
mother.
wow. I
Yeah.
said, but the umbilical cord, the cells are still connected between the dad and the mom. But I guess the way that I channeled it, not realizing I had channeled because
Whoop.
my voice carried at a higher volume than a regular high school student, got everybody panicky. I see my teacher's face. Next thing you know, my mom was called in. Next thing, and then the principal, her name was Mrs. Newhouse of all things. And she says to my mom, she says, this is after I gave up going to a beautiful high school for journalism and stayed at my regular yeshiva to build a journalistic program, which I did, a successful journalistic program for the first time in a yeshiva in New York in the 90s. She says, your daughter is asking way too many questions. My mom says, well, she's at a point where, she has the right to ask that. She says, but she's indicating that there's not all 100% Jewish in your family. She says, where does she indicate that? By that question? Where did you find that? But there's so much passion in there. She says, so you assume? She says, if she can't come back for Jewish studies, she has to go to public school. My mother looked at me. I looked at my mother. We felt like a giant weight had dropped off our shoulders. And my mom says, thank you very much. It's been a beautiful ride, but I think it's time to get off that bus. And the next thing I know, I end up in regular public high school with home instruction. So I never really ended up in a classroom environment, never seen a prom, unfortunately, until college. But that was one of the happiest moments because it gave way for me to be able to explore that there was something more to me and to affirm that. And even though there were many times where my mom, did kind of mimic, okay, well, you're crazy for thinking this, for saying that, for saying this, because my mom comes from a lineage of witches. A lot of things that she's yet to tell me because she knows so much, but she's never actually spoken about it until after my grandmother had passed. She kept it more quiet to herself. So anybody that would ever suggest that I was, any type of crazy or mental for anything that I've ever said, because I see dead people, like the movie. I did mention that when I was like 11 to a doctor, and the doctor was like, is your daughter going to get tested for schizophrenia? My mom said, yeah, okay, not in your lifetime. She is, she didn't have a lot of sleep, something like that. But she kept it to a wrap. And then after my grandmother had passed away, and when I was already in my 20s and I had my second son, then she explained it to me. And she herself is a reluctant psychic. So she's still in that phase. So she couldn't really bring herself to the point of really accepting it. And she still has a hard time. When I went to shamanic classes and really wanted to get into Reiki and shamanistic energy medicine, and brought in my first very proud moment of having a beautiful feather from Peru to clear energy fields in the house. And I wanted to clear her house. I said, Mom, I got the feather. We're going to do this. We're going to clear those entities out of that 100-year-old building. My mom freaked out. Suffice it to say, I've never seen my mom's eyes go up to her forehead, but because she is a very strong psychic and a very strong witch in many respects, and she doesn't even understand the power of her own gifts, she looked at a photograph I never forgot of a bike in the pizza shop that we were at, and the photograph just came down and the glass just broke into pieces. So I was like, Mom, you really got to rethink your entire kind of perception of belief here. She said, take that feather and get it out of my face. Suffice it to say, that feather never landed anywhere. The entities are still there. My young son can see them. He goes half a block into that building and he starts crying. That is not good. And this was like years ago. And he's only almost 2. So yes, suffice it to say, they're still there.
Wow. Poor little guy.
Yeah. My mother had to hide her gifts because my father was full Christian. My mother grew up half Catholic, half witchy, because you had to have a religion in order to hide within the crowd. And she had to convert from being a Catholic to evangelist. That's what my father originally was. And So to her, having saints or statues and all that other stuff was normal. And when I had started having fairies and this and that, normal. My father was like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, nothing." "Why is there a Gemini on top of your bed?" I had the astrology thing and all that. "Because I like it. I demand you take it down." "Okay." That never happened.
No,
Um, no, no. I learned how to tweak my father. Every single time he would get me angry, I would turn up the stereo. Those knobs, he hated loud stereos. I would turn it up. The loudest rock song you could think of.
yes.
About 10 minutes, he would get the message. That was it. But it is amazing though, how even though we grew up in different places,
Yeah.
we all for basically, I mean, I came to this country when I was 9. So I understand that whole dilemma of being somebody from another country where I had to learn the language. I got hit on the head. Probably that's why some of my brain cells are dead so many times with those big rulers, because they would say to you, "Oh, ask your the girl right next to you what if you don't understand something." So when you turn to ask her, you would get hit.
Oh yeah, you get hit.
Yeah. So it would be like, yeah, the yardstick.
Because they were too, the
Bam.
teachers were too lazy to
Yeah.
actually walk up to the to the to the
To the students.
yeah, the chalkboard, and
Yeah.
they would have to sit down and point. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, got hit.
Yeah. Well, those are the same ones that you got hit with.
Yeah, yeah,
At
yeah,
least I did. In my head,
yeah.
oh, and in my hands, I used to say, I play, I want to play an instrument someday.
Not with your hands. You pop. Yeah, my
I
piano
am,
big.
I yeah, yeah, I learned how to play piano, so I had that excuse, and they couldn't do anything about it. But oh my God, how amazing in a way it is that we all basically experience the same thing in just in one of our awakenings.
Yes.
We thought we were crazy
Yep.
because here we are seeing things, feeling other people. Oh, first few times that they actually allow me to still really start feeling other people. Oh,
Mhm.
because my team sheltered me from a lot of that stuff
Mhm.
because they knew I had to have the traumatic event of leaving my mother and my brother back in Cuba for 16 months while my father and I went to Spain and then over here. So I wasn't sure if I ever was going to see my brother and my mother. So they knew that I was already going to go through that big traumatic event. They did not want me to also have experienced the feelings, my father's feelings, my
Correct.
mother's feelings, my brother's feelings, just them.
Yeah.
That would have finished me off. They understood that I had to only feel my stuff at that moment. Um, and it was hard. But yet, being a child, you were like, oh, it's everything. I don't know. I just knew everything was going to be okay. Although at that moment, getting into that airplane was really rough. But by the time we were in Spain for a month, I was like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be. And my father was still, trying to be the big man and the strong man and the whole thing. And I could see, yeah, okay. It's not working. I could see where you're going with this. But he was doing it for me. But the first time I saw spirits that were not archangels, because I always thought they were funny as heck when
Mm.
they came in that full costume thing, which I know that that's not exactly how they look, but they came in those full costumes. I was like, oh, people with costumes.
Yeah.
I love the wings. Oh, could I have a pair? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're a child. I was 2 years old and I was already seeing and talking to all of them. And I was like, I would fly. They're like, you can walk. I'm gonna fly like you guys do. Never mind walking. I'm
Yeah.
lazy. I'm gonna fly.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
But we were all. It got to a point though that because of all these awakening moments, there was a time you really started to think, am I really here? And and especially when you didn't want to tell anybody, when you didn't speak even to your mother about it or your family about it, because there were some things that you saw that you were like, "Mm, I don't know if I really want to say that. I might be found in the padded room." And then you realize that it was there, and you realize, like, my mother used to see all that stuff. My father used to see it, but would never admit to it because that wasn't part of his religion. And, so, and his, their two sisters, they also were very gifted. And one of them ended up not really learning how to protect herself. So she ended up in a very interesting situation that we'll talk about another time. But yeah, so isn't this, this is what we're trying to do here, to show people that even though we're very different,
Hmm.
we're really the same.
Yes.
And in awakenings, you basically go through the same feelings, the same experiences, even though they're not the same. One could be that, or your friends left, or the other one could be that your family's left. But you still have that everybody leaves you because you're moving in a different direction. Like Mary said, your vibrations are so different that everybody just bounces off. And if they're not supposed to be where you are and come on this path with you, they're going to keep bouncing. And let's face it, we have even faced that in our adult years.
Yes.
I used to say I have friends that I could count in one hand, and then there's still fingers that are left over.
Yeah.
Because those are the friends that actually stuck with me no matter what crazy stories I told them, no matter what I went through, they would still check up on me and they would still stick with me. And still, they're still there.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that never called me crazy. They're the ones that understood what I was going through because they were also going through it, because they're open and their understanding and compassion is truly understanding and compassion,
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
any other stories you ladies like to share?
Before we continue, we are
Oh,
going to
okay.
do our sponsors, and then perhaps after the stories, we can actually give people symptomatologies that maybe they're feeling and they haven't been able to put it together as they're going through an awakening, or this could be part of their awakening because there's so many symptoms out there, and we're talking about ours, but they may also have other things. So I think that maybe we can come back to those and talk about that after we have any story, if we have any stories before. All right, so stay
Definitely.
tuned. We shall return after our sponsors. We'll be back. And we're back. Thank you for joining us. Glenda had asked a question. Go ahead, Glenda. Let's continue.
Yes. Okay. So, did you guys ladies have any other stories you are willing to share? And also, what are the symptoms that you were experiencing? physically, mentally, emotionally, um, even spiritually. Anything that you can remember from any of your experiences, because we all basically go through the same. It's
Mhm.
just in different times, different ways.
We
So,
really do. Well, there are a lot of people out there that um, may have maybe one or more of the symptoms. One of them is when they feel disconnected or detached, and we touched on that, but it also has to do with detached from life itself. It's like they themselves feel like they're touring
mhm,
in on our earth, and they don't know what to do with it. Reevaluating their beliefs is a big one, and that's the one I think that gets us all into a big of a bit of a lot of trouble,
mhm,
because we're going against what we learned and what our family is expecting us to follow, and that's very, very hard on the human, because the human is such an animal um, of following. It's the human is not so much a leader, but a follower, depending on the level of enlightenment. So if they're going through their awakening for the very first time, and they're reevaluating their beliefs, there's going to be a point where even they themselves become discouraged, right? And it kind of lets them, it gets them to feel like they're lost. That feeling of being lost. I don't know about you, Mariana, but do you think that maybe, because I experienced that too, my dreams were a lot more vivid, were a lot more real. Like I would actually wake up and remember
Yeah.
every bit of it.
Yeah.
mhm,
I remember when I first really began like integrating my awakening journey in 2016. I remember having a conversation with a classmate of mine. We did quantum vector healing, but like I think it was like the first chapter of it. And I remember him saying to me, that you got to take it slow when
Mm-hmm.
you first start out. You got to kind of savor each moment, kind of just take it really slow, because everything is going so fast. It's like tumbleweeds. It's like it's just going and going, and you're processing so much data, you're processing so many downloads, you're processing so much uploads, and everything's just coming at you. Oh my God, I remember this past life. Oh, I remember that past life. Oh, okay, I remember why I do this. And I remember, okay, when I died there, and like I could see, I can hear it. It's going so fast that it's so easy to crash.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a physical crash. It's a physical, it's a mental, it's an emotional, it's an energetic crash. And that's what leads you to feeling that kind of like, I am lost. So
Right.
yesterday I was like, oh my God, I finally figured out I'm a light worker, I'm a star seed, I'm this, I'm from the Arcturian origin, I'm from the Pleiades, I'm from the galactic side, I'm an earth angel. But today I'm completely lost. I cannot figure it out at all. And that's where you become energetically depleted, because you're depleting your own life force.
Correct.
So when your life force is depleted, you feel very fatigued. You start feeling like almost like flu-like symptoms at times. You start getting like the vertigo, like your head is spinning. You start to getting like short-term memory losses. Sometimes people have experienced like that. You even have sometimes trouble speaking. I mean, again, could be a medical thing, obviously, but at the same time could be an ascension thing as well, because as your DNA, and I work a lot with DNA as a DNA activator, I go deep into the subconscious, as your DNA becomes more open and as you reactivate it more and more, things are going to come up. And what comes up a lot of the time is your cellular memory and the traumas of what you've been through in your former lives too. Got to count that in. And so like things that you have experienced are going to come up. So pains are going to come up. All these weird feelings are going to come up, and on the emotional level, on the physical level, whichever level that, you're meant to experience them at. And yeah, you're going to feel that level of confusion. You're going to feel that moment of I am lost. But that's where I love to say to anyone that could relate to this and to anyone listening to this now and in the future is you never are lost. And I want to, I want to say that from heart. And I'm very passionate about that because I had many moments in my life where I felt that, and I didn't have the support. I didn't have someone say to me, hey, listen, I'm going to take your hand. But again, at the same time, I didn't need that hand because I'm the hand. I'm that knight in the shining armor. I'm that saving grace. I'm that holy grail because I need to understand that for myself in this life. Perhaps maybe in others, I needed that support, but in this life, I am energetically ascending. I'm evolving to know that I can do this on my own. And, everybody's a reflection, a mirror of myself. So I'm doing the shadow work. I'm doing that personal work to get to that point to ascend. And so you're not lost. You are in a moment of 0 point. When you feel that crash and you feel that you're lost, you're in 0 point. And 0 point is great because you go from 0 to everything.
Yeah.
You can reinvent yourself. It's the beginning of a new beginning. It's a clean slate. It's, in Latin, it's tabula rasa, clean slate. And from this moment, that's where you build, you reinvent, you talk to your higher self, you re-emerge.
Right.
You become that which is that you're becoming. It's a beautiful place to be.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
you're never lost. You're always going to find, because you're always looking at that light, like that beacon of light in the water, like that lost ship is always looking for that lighthouse. Light is always there, just like Jesus said, like Yeshua said to Mary, open your eyes to the light.
That's right.
And if you just do that, can your faith be held hostage? No, it can never be held hostage.
No.
As long as we have faith and we open our eyes to the light, because the light is always there, the sun's always going to shine, the moon's always going to shine.
Yeah.
We're the ones that need to be open enough to allow that emission of light to shine in within us and outside of us.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you find teachers like Glenda and you and me when but people need to know that
Yeah.
helpers like us our that we are the beacons, that we are able to
Yeah.
actually guide them because we're more
Right.
like guides to sorry guys, that we are more guides that can explain to them,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is normal because
Mm-hmm.
most people don't know that this is normal. If one of the experiences um, that they get is synchronicities and deja vu. When these
Mm-hmm.
people start getting bombarded with angel numbers, repeating numbers, and they're going through deja vu after deja vu, and it's just adding. Because some people, like you said, they go at light speed
Yep.
to their awakening, and they need to know that there are people out there that
Mm-hmm.
know what they're doing. They've already gone through it.
Right.
They've been trained. They've gone through
Yep.
training. They've been there.
Mm-hmm.
They've
Been there, done that.
been there, done that, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of these, because I work with a psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm the shaman in the psychotherapy office, and there are so many people that when she when she evaluates and she sees, it's like, Mary, you this one's yours, because there's nothing really wrong as
Yep.
far as anything psychological. It is because she's holistic as well. She knows that these
Mm-hmm.
people are going through their awakening. Um, Usually, when relationships begin to shift, including relationships with themselves, they have a hard
Mm-hmm.
time adjusting
Mm-hmm.
to those changes. That is part, could be a very big part of their awakening as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the intuition. Glenda, talk
Mm-hmm.
about what happens with intuition, because they become a lot more intuitive. So talk to us about that part.
Well, a lot of people, when they start their awakening um, path or experiences, they start to know what's going to happen. They start to see things. They start to feel things. And they start to hear the voices in their head, and they're like, oh, I'm really gone now. And they don't realize that that is just their guides, their team helping them. I had this one lady who was, oh my God, dear poor woman. She was even going through her Kundalini awakening, rising, and she was getting headaches and all that other stuff. And she was just not surrendering. The less she surrendered, the harder the stuff became. It was just like the more she said, I'm not seeing that, the more they came. Nope, I'm not feeling that, the more feeling she got in everything. She even foretold the big accent she had.
Wow.
She said to me, I can't come next Tuesday. I was like, okay, when you were, she's like, well, I understand that I'm going to have an accident. So I'm letting you know right now I'm not going to come. And I'm like, okay. And I said, should you change direction? Like go someplace else? Like don't go out that day. I mean, something. She's like, no, I'm feeling that, but I don't think I'm going to have an accident.
Sure
She ended
enough.
up in the hospital for 5 months.
Yeah.
That's how bad the accident was. And I was like, okay. So I walked into her room and she's like, okay, I'm ready to surrender. Oh, finally, finally. Because I mean, I was like, how much more are they going to let you know that this is happening? Like, just...
Yeah.
And once she started letting go and surrendering and understanding what she was going through and understood that we all go through it.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our experiences. We all have our symptoms. I mean, she was getting the headaches. She was getting the dizzy spells. She was getting the the symptoms of being sick, but she wasn't sick.
Yes.
She was thinking that she had like in the blood, her blood tests were showing perfectly normal, but she was getting anemic symptoms.
Yep.
She was getting um all these types of symptoms. She had lupus symptoms, she had fibromyalgia symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
She even started losing her hair by the bunch like this. And
Mm-hmm.
everything was perfect.
Yep.
So, you know, the biggest part of all this is like we all get these symptoms, the dizzy spells, the everything goes wrong. We don't belong in this world. We're from outer space somewhere. Okay, we could be outer space somewhere, but besides that,
Yeah.
the stuff like your whole life's plan. You wanted to be a doctor. You are a doctor, and then all of a sudden you have no interest in that.
It's gone.
It's gone. You can't even write a prescription because you don't even feel right about it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a complete change of everything.
Yeah.
My biggest one that I remember after the little ones was when I went from being a paralegal, where the doctors had to tell me if I didn't stop being a paralegal, if I didn't stop working in that type of environment, I was going to die. They were giving me 6 months to live
Wow.
because I was fighting. I don't want to be a paralegal. I want to be an attorney. I want to be in law. I don't want to do that. No, I want to be there. And the more I fought, the more they gave me back. I was like, okay. So all these symptoms, the headaches are a big one. That's a big,
Yeah.
for me, it was the dizzy spells. The You don't even feel like doing the same things you used to do. Like if you enjoyed going out with your friends and having a nice dinner with a glass of wine, all of a sudden that just doesn't appeal to you at all.
Yeah.
So it's like going from the left to the right completely
Yeah. Yeah.
in almost everything. In almost everything. And
Yeah,
some symptoms are a little less, but
yeah.
some a little more harsh.
I had a I had a problem with inauthenticity.
Mm,
Hmm. I
mm,
had a big problem with inauthenticity, and inauthenticity with myself. I'm like, because you question yourself, and you're
Hmm.
like, wait, who am I really? And then that got me into understanding what was my path, but not only if that it was my path, when I realized, oh my God, everybody else has their own path and it's not my path. When I realized that, I was like, oh, I, I'm not responsible for all these people. Well, that's a good thing. But
mm,
I still wanted to be of service, but I had to learn that they didn't want to hear me, and I had to be okay with that. That was
mhm,
a that was a big thing because I had to then overcome feeling alone and understanding what isolation was against what or versus solitude.
mhm,
You know, isolation is a lower frequency. Was alone enough to understand that it's solitude. This is where we grow. This is a good thing.
mhm.
It's a good thing, and people go through that. People go through that. How about Mariana? I remember you talked once about that you felt really connected to the natural world
Mhm.
while you were going through this. Do you remember talking about that? That you were,
Especially the water.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that you had
Yeah,
talked
because
about that.
Mm,
I'm a very big like conductor of energy.
mhm,
So when I'm with the water, even though, I mean, the irony of it all is that because one of my past lives I had died in Atlantis,
Mm,
mhm,
I
mhm,
had to really work with the shadow part and the shadow work of killing the fear or embracing the fear, honoring it and respecting it,
mhm,
really, of drowning. So I had to work with that. So, I work with the ocean because I live by the ocean. I live in Brooklyn, New York. So the ocean has been my friend for a long time. It has been my healer, my friend, my everything. I
mhm.
go there, I get guidance, I speak to Mother Ocean, I dance and that's a big thing for me. But I can only go so far. It reaches over to my knees and then that's the end of it. I must go back because then that whole Atlantis timeline reincarnation is in my cellular memory. It comes right back and I see myself drowning.
yeah.
And then, but the natural world, definitely, it is something. But we have to get to that point of understanding, just like Mary said, exactly the same thing, the authenticity part.
Mhm,
We have to understand the difference and differentiation actually between that whole part of isolation and solitude. We have to understand that certain things that we go through in our awakening, which is exactly, why a lot of us still stumble or, still have that escapism or like, we stagger our own development sometimes, but it's okay because everything is in divine timing. So if we stagger it this time, it'll still we still have that opportunity to evolve. There's not a finish line, it's no competition. It's not a race.
no.
We just get a couple of extra lessons here and there and we continue to evolve. But I think the biggest part that I've learned from the natural world, and I'm learning now more than ever in the last couple of months, and specifically in the last couple of weeks, and this year alone, which is 20, if you want to talk about numerology, 2022. What is 222? You're in the right place, right time, right
Mhm,
direction. And then there's a zero, which is 0 point, staring right in the
mhm,
middle of it all, where
Hmm.
you can go and you have infinite number of possibilities
Yes.
to create, remerge, and reinvent and become the highest possible version of yourself. How amazing is that? That for many of us,
Absolutely.
2022, which considerably sounds like an amazingly fun, adventurous year for a lot of us around the world, for millions of us.
Yeah,
really, truly, in all seriousness.
yeah.
It's been the hardest year
And
in people's lives.
you guys have noticed that this year there have been so many more awakenings that are
Mm-hmm.
actually being reported. People are
Mm.
actually, this is where they're coming out. They're really coming out there. There's there is a hunger
Yeah,
for information.
Mm-hmm.
They're already coming understanding the basics. Like they know that this is not normal. They've already gone to get seen and checked out by professional doctors and psychologists, even psychiatrists, and they're telling them there's nothing wrong with you, dude. Just go find yourself a witch doctor because there's nothing wrong with you. And families are actually, because they have been, now they're so busy with so many other things. People that are not on that path, they're busy doing something else
yeah,
that those that require or have programmed their awakening here on this lifetime. They're seeing that there's more of an opening for them.
yeah,
There's more of an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah,
yeah. I,
it's interesting,
yeah.
isn't it?
I think to add to that, what used to feel like it was exotic or considered exotic, like let's say you're in the medical field, right? And then like, oh, you're gonna go and you're gonna get some Reiki massage, even like the lymphatic drainage or any other type of like energy work or healing work or metaphysical work or quantum work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I studied with like with a teacher who was from London, and like he has studied for like over 30 years with this vector healing, and that's rooted in a lot of different things.
Right.
And I remember him saying like it's considered exotic work.
Yeah.
Because
But
like it's almost like you're out of the norm, out of the box. Now, since COVID, since the pandemic, it has become a lot more acceptable. It has become a lot more, ingrained into what is the norm now. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because millions and millions and millions of people are seeing around the world that what was the norm is no longer working.
right.
Mm-hmm.
How, it may have worked for them at that point, but it's no longer making any sense because it's not giving them the answers, and more questions are coming up rather than answering them. And so, witch doctors, if you want to call it that, are now, spiritual light workers, way showers, healers, psychics are more channels, are more prevalent, are more accepting. It's a more acceptable term. I remember in 2015, 2014, 2015, going to Salem, where everybody's a family, it's a community. You
Mm-hmm.
can be what you want. You come up to somebody, you say, hello, okay, I'm a witch. That's okay. They give you a hug. It's acceptable. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
we're
then you go
going,
back to New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It's a culture clash.
yes.
It's like you have to travel miles to feel normal. That was back then.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
now it's not the same. It's a very, very different type of culture. And the generation that's growing up now will see that as a more of a normal, because people are waking up in a critical state of mass numbers. I mean, it's mass
Mm-hmm.
awakening all over the world now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
it's
I
so,
mean,
yeah,
it's an evolution.
it is, and it is evolving because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you have the nursing, um, the nursing course at Oxford, in Harvard. They have Reiki level 1
Mm-hmm.
attunements for their nurses. They get to
Yeah.
learn about Reiki. Listen, when the medical community is making that change and
Yeah.
they're embracing, number one, because they want to regulate it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm.
regulation to energy.
Yeah. It's like, how can you regulate
You
that?
cannot regulate it, but they know that it works.
Right.
They're seeing that it works, that this is real. We're not making it up. And because they're seeing that more and more and more and more people are falling into this beauty, because this is beauty and grace. This is love and compassion that is
Mhm.
making things happen.
Mhm.
That's where they find themselves, where they're like, okay, well, this is real, because they themselves have actually felt it and gone through it. When you see
Mhm.
that, then here's where Mariana and Glenda are right, where they can see what this next shift is going to bring,
Mhm.
and why it is that awakenings are real. And just like Glenda said in the beginning, you just don't awaken once. You awaken on a phase. This is your
Mhm.
first phase. Then you sit down and go,
Mhm.
take a breath, right? But take a breath quick, okay?
Because
Because here comes the next one.
yeah.
Every time that you go through an awakening, you're ascending. Well,
Mhm.
what did you program? How many times do you have to come here in order to continue? Because yes, you can turn it off, but you don't
Mhm.
have to start from the beginning. Wherever you decide to pick up, that's where you pick up again. But understanding that you already programmed all this crap just before you came here. So you have an agenda
Yeah.
that everybody goes through. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They know it. People know it. It's a shift. It's
Mhm.
coming. And it's a big coming.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And people think that they're by themselves. They're not.
Mm-mm.
This is one of the major points we want to say here. You have three people right here.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you feel drawn to, please reach out.
Yeah.
Um, and neither any one of us is going to get hurt because the other one talked to somebody and the other one didn't. Us three are not about that. We're actually only about the healing and about the understanding and about the compassion. Everything else, that's that's a different agenda. We're not on that path.
No.
So, um, and this is why we're three witches. Now, just to for the record, people, witches back then were just people who understood nature, who understood the elements, and were able and energy, and were able to heal or provide the opportunity of healing for others. That is what a true witch is. Yes, you follow the moons and the sun and the waves and the astrology and all that, but that is like everything else. You become a doctor, you're just not a doctor. You have to keep reading about this, and you got to look at the new symptoms of a different diseases and what comes out and what new medicines come out. So it's always all involving. Everything is involving everything because we're not here alone. We're here united. We're here to be in the oneness energy. And so understand, if you hear the name, the title witch, it is just that we're good. That's all.
Damn.
Yeah.
And I think just to add to that, ladies,
Yes.
I think the whole point of, awakening and kind of continuously going through the awakening process and the intensity of the awakenings too, really derive and depend on the resistance levels. It's like a rubber band. That's the way really I look at it. And our surrender and our willingness to surrender, because we could all surrender. It's not easy.
Hmm. Not easy. No. Mm.
No. If anyone ever tells you it is easy, run, Forest, the other way. It is the hardest thing for
Mhm.
a human in the human condition in the meat suit. One of the hardest things for a human is to really surrender in heart and in mind.
Yeah.
And that, I understood that this year, and I kept replaying what Yeshua said, can your faith be held hostage? But that statement, that's about surrender.
That's it.
That is really, I mean, I never understood that for many, many years. Like, I never understood what he meant by that, but that's it. What is it? You know, we used to say prior to the pandemic in my job, I had my coworker, and both of us had shared a lifetime in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to always say, "What is your Egypt?" Meaning the enslavement, when, in the story of the Jews being enslaved, what is your Egypt? So can your faith be your Egypt? Yes, of course, because the more that you resist, the more you're caging your faith,
Mm-hmm.
the more you don't surrender and consistently stay within that reluctant stage, you are not giving yourself the opportunity to really become that which is what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not allowing yourself to open yourself to the light enough to see that beyond that fear, beyond what is right in front of you viscerally, because as humans, we have to see to believe.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing as a shaman. That's the whole thing of spirituality, is that it teaches you to see what is unseen. Because if you can see what is unseen to the human eye,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the physical, and you can see with your third eye, your etheric eye, and the eye of your heart, and the eye of your mind's eye, you will see what is unseen to the general public, and that is okay. Because that way, you are evolving, and you are truly evolving and truly dedicated to becoming that which is that you're meant to become here, and doing your work, doing your mission. When you finally say, okay, what gives? All right, I surrender. I mean, I'm not fully grasping what's happening, but I'm going to at least assure us that we try. And it all starts with just dropping that resistance, because the more we resist, the more things in our lives, the challenges persist, because there's exactly. It's like they're going to keep going. They're going to keep knocking you over the head. Those headaches are going to keep on coming. You're still going to continue to resist. You're still going to run to the doctors, and doctors are going to say, you're imagining things. We can't find nothing wrong with you.
That's right.
Meanwhile, they're probably in their head, I think I believe them, but I can't have to say anything.
That's
you
actually
know,
happening with my daughter.
right.
That's
Talk
actually
about that.
with my daughter.
Wow.
She speaks to angels, but she is having a hard time, and she does not resist that much. Well, we didn't think that she did, but she's resisting the human side. That is what she's resisting. She's all spirit, so it can go backwards too. It could be on the other side.
Yes, it
Very
can.
true.
Resisting the human side, and there are people that are doing that do that. They embrace, they live in the spiritual, and
Okay.
don't haven't really given the human side the time that it needs. And there's so many new souls that are here for the first time.
Very new. So,
We've
Yeah.
seen so many. We
many.
have no idea what they're doing. Just
Yeah.
when we thought, us elders thought that we were packing up,
We were done. Yeah.
done, and all of a sudden there's this new wave that came in, and we're like, "Where's your contract?
Oh,
What?
we
What do
got
you
to
mean
start
you don't
again.
know anything? What happened?" And here we are again, starting a new wave when we were
Again.
already told we were not going to be the ones doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
We're like, well, okay,
Something happened. Yeah. New instructions.
new instructions,
New,
and
re,
here we
a
are.
revision in the contract.
There you go, an addendum.
But that's the
And
thing, ladies. This third wave, actually, as
mhm,
a matter of fact, Carol Messenger is coming up with a brand new book called Bringers of Light, The Third Wave, which is exactly what this is about.
mhm,
Their DNA is open,
Yes,
and they understand unconditional love.
yes.
They don't have to spend, for the most part. They're like they see things from a very, very young age. They feel, they know, it's almost like already their DNA is open to say, okay, this is my mission. At 6 months old, okay, well, I'm talking to them, the dogs that just passed. I could see this, I could see that. And then it's funny because the parents actually have to start buying for dummies how to parent a DNA accelerated child,
There you go.
how to
They're doing
parent
it.
an empathic, a rainbow child
Yes,
who
a
can
crystal.
walk into a building and see
Uh,
entities, and the parents are like, why are you crying? Here,
this,
Bobo, here's Milky, here's pacifier. And the child is looking, tearing up, swelling eyes, and it's like, you don't understand what's happening here. I'm
And
trying to clear this land, and you're giving me a pacifier.
and that is why we're still doing the
there,
work.
yeah,
The parents
exactly.
are the ones that call us. I
Yeah,
don't know what to do with my kid. I
yes.
went, I went here and there, and I don't know what to do with my kid. Can you look at my kid? Can you tell me what's wrong with my kid? And we're like,
Uh,
there's
There's
nothing wrong
nothing
with it.
wrong with kids.
But the
The kid's
parents
doing
are the
grid work.
ones that are not ready. It's like, there's nothing wrong with your kid. There's something wrong with you. Okay, where are you in your path? You were supposed to be ready for these people.
Yeah, that's why we were almost retired here. We were going to start
Wait.
taking it easy.
Exactly. And that is the reason why. Because then the reason why we're still here is because these kids don't have the backing that they were supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
They're all saying, the backing is saying, well, it's your fault. Because of the world and the life that you've led, we're the ones carrying the bag. And
Uh,
what are
what
you
life?
talking about? There's no way. Let us take care of it. And that's where we've ended up,
Mm.
where the Grand Consulate, I will call, has
A
said,
round table.
there you go,
Round
the round
table.
table. The round
Because
table.
that's what they call it on my side.
Okay,
The
good.
round table.
Great. That's when they said, about your pension plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember
It,
that? No.
you need to pay a little more into it.
Yeah. Now you're grandma, but you're grandma for the world.
No. Yeah. And you look at them and you're like, oh come on. I was this close to retirement.
That's right.
I really was looking forward to just the beach, the waves, the sunny days, those pina coladas. What the heck?
The cake. I just want cake.
Ugh,
I want
Cuban cake,
cute.
borrachos,
Oh my
borrachos.
God. I'll give you the recipe on how to do it. It's really good.
Oh yes, you have to. Mm,
I actually channeled one time, ladies, no joke. I worked with one of meditations from Steve Noble. I don't know
mm-hmm.
if and it channeled. This was during my first awakening moments. It was amazing. And actually that was my first client, and she became my bestest, closest friend. And then she disappeared. And this is how I knew that I was elevating.
That
Just
was it.
disappeared. Came back 3 years later, and then again disappeared.
There you go.
And we
At
worked
least you
with
know she's alive.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then came back and did not apologize. Just said hello.
But they
And
don't
that
need
was
to.
it.
They don't need to.
I
Because
don't know.
they do when they leave.
Yeah,
They do. They
yeah,
do. And once we learn to understand that, see,
yeah,
this is part of also the awakening.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's that that
yeah,
understanding that there's no need to apologize because
yeah,
they're going to when the time is right. And we don't know here in
yeah,
our because we live in time and space.
yeah,
Um, and oh, they may have already apologized, and sometimes they do, but they can't help it. They can't help it. It's we're gonna go. We're already 2 minutes and
Then
2 hours and 22 minutes into this, so it's way too.
yeah.
But we have to talk about holding, about the inauthenticity of holding our ancestors hostage with
Yeah.
anger and not wanting to understand that things happened to get to this
Yeah.
point,
Mm-hmm.
and and that we need to talk about the karmic responsibility that we bring in, and how simple it is not to make the mistake of coming here to thinking and lying to yourself, because this is part of the inauthenticity, that you're going to clear your ancestral karma. You are not going to come and clear any ancestral karma, because it is so hard to do. It is so rare to do. There is so much enlightenment that you have to go through before you're able to even touch it. Therefore, you're holding your ancestors hostage, waiting for something to happen when it was already resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, just to add to that, before we close soon, is you're holding everyone who you have not forgiven,
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, in energy terms, if you want to think
Mm-hmm.
about it, hostage. And
Yes,
not just in this life, but in all other lifetimes, who you have not forgiven for
yes,
things that have occurred.
yes.
You're holding that space. It's almost like a cage,
Yep,
almost like prison, and you're holding them imprisoned within yourself. And that's how your heart gets closed. And
yes,
that's
Mm-hmm.
how, and you're holding them, you're holding yourself. The karma
Mm-hmm.
spin cycle. It's like a
Right.
wash, rinse,
yes,
and repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat. It's like in that
Exactly.
episode of Friends. Wash and
wash and
repeat, like
repeat.
Phoebe used to do,
And it goes
write
to
it
the
out.
future. It moves into
And
the future.
it's the same thing. And so until you learn to forgive yourself
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn to forgive everyone else in that progressive, intense, honest, authentic apology,
authentic self. Yes,
Yeah.
then you can forgive and you can let that go. And
yes,
again, leads right back into state of surrender. Because if you
Yep.
don't surrender, how could you ever forgive?
exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to end right there.
That was beautiful.
To be
Our
continued.
beautiful ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here with us. And I hope you stay a little longer so you can listen to our sponsors. They have great things to say. And if you support them, you support us also. Even if it's just by staying on and listening and or watching. And also keep an eye out because we are going to continue our great discussions that um, we always have, and hope that you are healing, hope that you are getting those aha moments,
Yes.
and we are here for you. Love yous all. Namaste.
Namaste.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye.